Plaintiff calls Blaze Weed to the stand. While the witness is walking to the stand, let the record reflect that I am providing opposing counsel with the exhibit we plan to use.
Place your right hand on the Bible, state your full name,
Blaze Weed,
and spell your last name.
W-E-A-D.
You just read testimony about to give the court a minute. I'll try and be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please be seated.
Miss Weed, are you a resident of Centerville?
Yes, I am.
What do you do for a living?
I'm the fire marshal for Centerville. I was appointed to a 4-year term in 1993.
What does this position entail?
Well, I have 4 specific duties. First, I have to investigate all the fires that occur in Centerville. Second, I have to determine the origin of the fire, if possible. Third, I have to estimate the value of the property that was damaged in the fire. Fourth, I have to prepare a report of my findings.
Prior to becoming fire marshal, did you have any firefighting experience?
Yes, I was a firefighter for 6 years with the Centerville Fire and Rescue Company, and I also did fire inspections on the side.
Since becoming fire marshal, how many fires have you investigated?
12 fires.
And have you had any special training for your job?
Yes, I received in-service training, and I also attended 2 outside seminars on being a fire marshal.
At this time, Your Honor, I move that Blaze Weed be admitted as an expert without any further voir dire.
Voir dire.
Thank you.
You have no objection to being classified as an expert?
No.
All right. I find that Blaze Weed is an expert witness in the area of fire investigation.
When did you first learn of the fire at Fink's garage?
On the night of August 7th, 1993, I was at home getting ready for bed when a call came over the scanner that there was a fire in progress at Fink's garage.
What did you do after hearing the scanner broadcast?
Well, the first thing I did was I called the Centerville Fire Station. I told them to send both trucks because I knew that Fink's garage was made mostly of wood and that it would burn quickly. I then left for Fink's garage.
What time did you get there?
11:25.
How long did it take you to get from your house to the scene of the fire?
About 10 minutes.
What did you see when you arrived at the scene of the fire?
Well, I noticed that the fire seemed to have started in the paint shop portion of the garage, which, if you're looking at the garage, it is the rightmost portion of the garage. That's about it.
Were the fire trucks there when you arrived?
No.
What time did they get there?
11:33.
At the time of the truck's arrival, what was the condition of the burning building?
Unfortunately, it was too late to save the garage. It had totally been destroyed.
Do you remember how long it took for the building to completely burn?
Yes, it was totally destroyed by midnight.
Why do you remember that time specifically?
Well, I remember that was the time when Terry Fink arrived. I remember thinking how sad it was for him to come to a totally destroyed garage.
Did you talk to Mr. Fink that night?
Yes, I did.
What did you talk about?
Well, we talked about some citations he had received from the Department of Environmental Resources. He told me that he thought he had corrected the problems that had led to those citations.
And what citations was he talking about?
Well, he had been cited by the DER for storing flammable chemicals too close to a heating element.
Was that all you talked about that night?
Yeah, that was about it.
Once the fire was out, did your duties require you to investigate the cause of the fire?
Yes.
Did your investigation include an inspection of the site?
Yes, they did.
When did you do this?
Early the next morning.
Could you tell the jury what you did while you were there?
Well, basically, I investigated the charred remains of the building.
Were you able to make a thorough investigation?
Yes, because the paint shop is not made of wood, it hadn't collapsed like the rest of the building had.
What did you see inside of the paint shop portion?
I saw a few things. I saw some paint cans and cleaning products. I saw a stack of newspapers, and I also saw a broken window.
Did you find anything unusual in the garage?
Yes, I found a charred skateboard that I could not identify.
Why was this unusual?
Well, it didn't seem normal to me that a skateboard would be in an auto body repair shop.
After your investigation, did you draw up a report?
Yes, I did.
In your report, did you describe those items you just described? The paint cans, cleaning products, broken window, and skateboard?
Yes.
Is the preparation of a report one of your ordinary duties?
Yes, and it goes into an official file.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? I'm presenting the witness with what has been marked as Exhibit 1. Your Honor, here's a copy for you. Can you identify this?
Yes, this is my report of the investigation that I conducted on the fire at Fink's garage.
Is this an accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
At this time, Your Honor, I move that Exhibit 1 be admitted into evidence.
Any objections?
May I publish it to the jury?
Exhibit 1 is admitted. I don't know if I wanted to go out with the jury yet, so why don't you just question the witness on that?
In your report, how did you describe the heating element in this garage?
The heating element in the paint shop area was provided by an electric baseboard heater that extended around the 3 exterior walls of the building.
And what was the thermostat set at the night of the fire?
The thermostat was set at 68 degrees, which was 9 degrees higher than the lowest evening temperature recorded that night in Centerville, which was 59 degrees.
In your report, did you mention the location of the paint cans and cleaning products and newspaper?
Yes, I said that the paint cans and cleaning products were located approximately 3 feet away from the heater, while the stack of newspapers was located 1 to 2 feet away.
Fire Marshal Weed, in your expert opinion, did the location of these items play any role in the origin of the fire?
Yes, I concluded that the most probable source of the fire was the combustion of fumes from open paint cans and cleaning products. These chemicals were combusted by the nearby heating element. The fire was then fed by a stack of newspapers, and after that, the fire spread throughout the building.
Fire Marshal Weed, in your expert report, what did you say about the role of the skateboard in the origin of the fire?
I said that I could not find any conclusive indication that the skateboard played a role in starting the fire.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Cross-examine.
Ms. Weed, you have been fire marshal of Center County for 6 months at the time of the fire, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
You haven't completed any college-level courses on fire investigation, have you?
No, I haven't.
But you've had some training, 2 seminars in 6 years.
That's right. I also received in-service training.
You're 26 years old. Isn't that kind of young to be a fire marshal?
Yes, I'm very proud to be the youngest fire marshal ever appointed to that position in Centerville.
And it's true that you were appointed to that position by your uncle.
Yes, that's correct.
Have you ever inspected Finks before?
Yes, I have.
And Finks was still in operation up to the time when it burned down, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Mr. Weed, isn't it true that according to the DER report, Mr. Fink promptly remedied the citation, promptly remedied the situation,
Yes, he told me that he had.
and it also stated so in the report?
Yes, it did.
Mr. Weed, isn't it true that you stated in your expert report that the open window played a role in feeding the fire?
Yes, the night air coming in through the broken window probably fed the fire, yes.
And would you also agree with me that the cold night air coming in through the window would have made the heater stay on longer than usual?
Yes, that's possible, yeah.
And would you agree with me that Daryl's skateboard broke the window?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that the role of the skateboard in the fire is likely,
I conclude that it was likely but inconclusive.
however likely?
Well, sorry, it's unfair to say it was just likely. It was likely but inconclusive.
Isn't it also true that the only skateboard which has undisputably entered the building was Daryl's skateboard?
Yes, I believe so.
This is Exhibit 3. Could you tell me what date you prepared this report on, this exhibit on?
Oh, September 8th.
Wasn't it true that you were surprised to find out where the fire had started?
Yes, I think the reasoning for that was because the rest of the garage is made mostly of wood, and I think in my mind I thought maybe the fire would have started in the wood part of the garage.
There haven't been any fires at Fink's garage in the past, has there?
No.
And the cans of paint have been there night after night for 5 years, haven't they?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not quite sure.
And they passed your fire inspections, haven't they?
Well, yes, I conducted some inspections in the past, and they had, yes.
There wasn't a fire at Fink's on August 6, 1993, was there?
Well, no, it occurred on August 7th.
And the only thing that changed between August 6th and August 7th was that Daryl's skateboard came crashing through the window.
Well, I'm not really aware if anything changed inside the building. I wasn't there on August 6th. I can't really say.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
All right, you may stay. Any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, but before closing statements are made, is it all right if well, first of all, I'd like to enter exhibit number 2, which is the citation into evidence. We've used it in the cross-examination.
Counsel?
Once again, Your Honor, we do think that the DER citation is trying to prove negligence on the night of the fire, which we don't believe it shows, and therefore should not be relevant.
All right, I think that it was authenticated, it was testified to, it was properly brought up during the defendant's case, that it's properly before the court at this point. I'll allow it as far as admission into evidence, whether it's going to be profit to the jury, not some other issue.
Okay, well, may I publish the citation and the expert report to the jury?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, closing arguments?
May it please the Court. Your Honor, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. As we said before, this is a case about a fire and who is responsible for it. Let me remind you, as the judge will instruct, that you need to keep in mind scales of justice. These scales can tip one way or the other in favor of either party. If, after you have weighed the evidence presented to you today, you find that the scale leans towards Mr. Fink, or even if the scales are evenly balanced, you must still find in favor of my client, Mr. Terry Fink. We have proven today that the defendant, Darrell Claiborne, is responsible and liable for damages to Fink's garage incurred on the night of August 7, 1993. We called two witnesses to the stand today, Mr. Terry Fink and Ms. Tracy Attila. Mr. Fink behaved responsibly on the night of the fire. He shut and locked the fence he had constructed around his property to keep skaters out. Now, there has been some question as to whether this fence was sufficient in keeping skaters out. This isn't about the quality of Mr. Fink's fence. This is about Mr. Fink building a fence that was designed to convey a message, and that message was, keep out. He also posted a no skateboarding sign to further convey that message to skaters. Ms. Attila has testified to seeing that locked fence on the night of the fire. She also saw Darrell's skateboard crash through the window of Fink's garage. Darrell Claiborne behaved irresponsibly the night of the fire. It was this behavior that caused the fire and ultimate destruction of Fink's garage. Mr. Claiborne testified that on the night of August 7th, he climbed through a hole in the fence surrounding Fink's garage, which he knew was locked. He also knew that it was designed to keep people out. He claims that he never saw the fence before the night of August 7th, but when questioned, admitted to skateboarding at Fink's since the construction of the fence. Therefore, he must have seen the fence and known that it was there to keep him out. After breaking the window with his skateboard, Darrell Claiborne hid in the woods behind the garage to see if the police would come up, obviously knowing that he had done something wrong. He then claims that he fished his skateboard out of the garage with a mere piece of wire without cutting himself on the glass. He could not produce his skateboard today or previously for the authorities because he wants you to believe that after all that time he spent retrieving it, fixing it, testing it, and keeping in mind that he himself testified money in his family was tight, that he simply threw it away. A few hours later, a fire broke out in Fink's garage, caused by paint fumes, ignited by the heater, still on because of the cold air coming into the room through the window Darrell Claiborne broke. And let's talk about that fire for a moment. The fire occurred in the most unlikely part of the garage, not the two wooden parts, but the part that was built of unflammable cinder blocks. In fact, the place where Darrell's skateboard landed in the garage. The fire would have been contained had the cold air coming in through the window not helped it spread to the two drying cars, which then exploded. The defense wants you to believe that Darrell and his skateboard had nothing to do with the fire. Yet Blaze Weed, fire marshal of Centerville, agrees with his expert opinion that the role of the skateboard in the cause of the fire was likely. Although he also said it was inconclusive. Nothing in life is conclusive, and for the purpose of this trial, it doesn't have to be. We have proven the proximate cause of the fire. That is, a reasonably close causal connection between a party's conduct and a resulting injury to a person. In this case, we have proven Darrell Claiborne caused the fire in Fink's garage on the night of August 7, 1993. Day after day, year after year, Mr. Fink ran a paint and auto body shop. He never had any fires. In fact, Fire Marshal Weed inspected his shop for fire hazards and found nothing. Mr. Fink's shop was still standing until the night Daryl's skateboard broke a window in his garage. Now, personally, I don't believe in coincidence. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, neither should you.
Thank you, counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. As introduced by my co-counsel, I am Mike Kaczynski. I would like to thank you for the time and attention that you have paid to this trial. You've had to listen to a lot of testimony and watch several people point fingers at each other. This is my opportunity to tell you why you should point your fingers not at Darryl Claiborne, but at the man who really caused this fire, Terry Fink. There's an old saying that readily applies here. When you point one finger, there are always three pointing back. And so it is with this case. For the one finger that Mr. Fink points at Darryl Claiborne, there are three accusing fingers pointing right back at him. Three important facts that show that it was Terry Fink who was negligent and who caused the fire. 1. Mr. Fink knew people had been skateboarding on his property before he put up the so-called fence, and he knew that it was so poorly constructed, people were able to get onto his property even after it went up. 2. Mr. Fink knew there was a potential hazard in the manner in which he stored his flammable paints and chemicals and knew what to do to correct it. And 3. Mr. Fink turned on the baseboard heaters, aggravating an already hazardous situation by introducing a source of ignition into this whole explosive equation. Now let's look at these points in some more detail. First, Mr. Fink's failure to warn the neighborhood kids to stay out. By his own admission, Mr. Fink knew people had been skateboarding on his property. You even heard him say he enjoyed watching them perform their fancy techniques. But at some point, he became concerned that he might be liable for injuries to these kids, so he decided to enclose his property. He says he put up a fence. That term's a bit generous. What he actually did on July 2nd, 1993, was haphazardly splice together some junkyard material to try and make a fence. A fence which Terry Fink's own witness, Tracy Attila, described as looking 100 years old, rusted, and with a hole on one side. Now almost immediately, Mr. Fink found out that this fence didn't work. On July 6, a mere 4 days after building the fence, he saw not only a gaping hole in it, but soda cans lying on his property inside the fence. Now any reasonable person would have concluded this was the evidence of an unwanted human presence. Evidence that people were still getting inside his property. The reasonable person would have repaired the hole in the fence. Mr. Fink did not do either. Second, Mr. Fink's insistence on storing his dangerous chemicals in a dangerous way. On the same afternoon that he discovered the hole in his fence, Mr. Fink underwent a formal inspection from the Department of Environmental Resources, the DER. He was cited for storing flammable paints and chemicals too close to a heating element and was fined $1,000. Knowing full well of the danger being in storing flammable paints and chemicals near a heat source, Mr. Fink disregarded it. This was not his first citation, this was his third citation. Third, Mr. Fink's decision to turn on the baseboard heaters in the paint shop. On the night of August 7, 1993, the lowest recorded temperature in Centerville was a comfortable 59 degrees, I'm sorry. However, Mr. Fink felt the need to crank up his heating system to 68 degrees in August. After being repeatedly warned about the danger involved in storing flammable paints and chemicals near a heat source, Mr. Fink decides to further increase that risk by turning up the heat. In the closed room, which was stuffed to the gills with flammable chemicals, after repeated warnings, on a warm August night, Mr. Fink turns up the heaters. Now, in the face of all his sloppiness, his carelessness, Mr. Fink is trying to blame all of this on Darryl Claiborne's skateboard. But no one saw Darryl's skateboard cause any damage inside of the paint shop, and no one has testified that his skateboard played any conclusive role in starting the fire. Yet based on conjecture and speculation, Mr. Fink wants to brand a 16-year-old boy with the financial burden and personal guilt of this tragic fire. According to Pennsylvania law, contributory negligence is carelessness on behalf of the plaintiff that is a substantial factor in bringing about the plaintiff's injuries. Now, what you have heard here today more than exemplifies this definition, it personifies it. When you begin your deliberations today, please remember that what hangs in the balance here is whether a 16-year-old boy will say that the system treated him fairly. You must not go through life believing that when you stand up and take responsibility for your actions, that you just get dumped on even more. That when you confess to a small wrong, someone older and more powerful will try and blame you for a big one. Mr. Fink is pointing his finger at Darrell Claiborne, but Darrell is resting in your hands. Now is the time for you to point your finger at Terry Fink and tell him that he can learn a good lesson from a young man who has grown up enough to take responsibility for his own actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel.